So let's start the 1 minute rule. If we'll start right here with you, Jon Harris, please stand up, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jon Harris. I am a 20-year Army veteran, still serving in the Army Reserves today. So I started off as infantry and worked my way all the way up from E3 to CW2. So I'm a Chief Warrant Officer at MacDill Air Force Base today, serving at the Joint Communications Support Element. I'm a husband, a father, and I also work as an information security professional for Special Operations Command. A lot of the things that I am focusing on is obviously affordability, accountability, and making sure that you have a representative who will listen to you and you can hold accountable. I will hold town halls, I will show up, but also I will always ask your opinion when it matters for important votes. Thank you.
First, I want to thank everybody that's a veteran. Thank you for your service. My name is Dr. Edward Pope. I'm running as a conservative Republican. I was a former U.S. Navy man. I served 14 years in law enforcement. I was one of the most decorated troopers in the history of the Highway Patrol. I was one of two to get the International Award. From there, I went ahead and furthered my education. I've got 2 master's degrees, one in critical incident management and counterterrorism, the other one in executive leadership. That wasn't enough. From there, I went on and I got my doctorate. And I have a doctorate in criminal justice where I studied criminal and criminal behavior along with executive leadership. I'm currently the COO of a very large company in Tampa. We deal with medical specimens and life-saving medications. I can tell you my core values are liberty, equality, democracy, and human rights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tamika.
Hello, everyone. I am Tamika Lyles, and I am also a candidate for Congressional District 16. I am an Air Force veteran. I also am an advocate, have been an advocate here in Florida since 2017. I have a nonprofit here that I also advocate for people in crisis. I am also an educator. I've taught in K through 12, juniors and seniors, U.S. history and world history, and now I am currently a professor in South Florida where I teach our next generation about civic engagement. So I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to you all learning more about me.
Hello, my name is Mark Davis. I'm running for Congress in Florida's 16th district, just like everybody else, I guess. But I'm just a pissed off dad, you know, in the middle of red Florida. And I'm a veteran, just like a lot of you. And I got a family I'm raising here in Florida. I started off in Indiana, I moved to Wisconsin, and now I'm down here in Florida. You know, living the great life, I thought, until Donald Trump freaking won again, right? So then we had to do something. So I got up off my butt and I decided to say, hey, no. So we're going to stop this nonsense. We're drawing a line in the sand, and we're actually pushing back. And on day one, we need to have accountability in the White House. We got to get these people locked up, and everybody needs to see it. On day 2, we need to have affordable health care. We need to have health care for all. And then on day 3, we need to have actual lower prices, not these imaginary lower prices that Republicans like him lie about. I'm talking about real lower prices. Let's get sanity back in Congress. Let's get sanity back in America. Vote for Mark Davis for Congress. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for coming, and thank you for doing this, because this is about you and your children and your grandchildren. It's not about me. People say, why do you run and run? I have run before when no one else would, because I care. And I don't have, unfortunately, children or grandchildren, and I'm running for the opposite reason. This is my hook to the future. I couldn't have kids. We tried and tried. Doesn't make logical sense, but it makes emotional sense. We're running first and foremost for campaign finance and electoral reform. Our country is for sale, and we're not going to get anything until we get billionaires out of buying elections. They paid for 20% of the last cycle. Now, I am qualified to represent you. I have a law degree and a PhD from Yale, and there were all sorts of famous people in my class. I'll talk later. It's about you, not me. Thank you.
My name is Glenn Pearson, and I'm running for Congress in CD16 because the political system is rigged. It's rigged against us in favor of the super wealthy, well-connected, big corporations. That's the reason that was my motivation for running. I have 3 grandchildren, and I don't want to leave them with the country that we have right now. We see the direction it's taking. And the reason it's like this is because we have a dysfunctional Congress. When all branches of the government works in unison, works together so that you have checks and balances, things work out. But when you have one branch that just confuses the word different, instead of making a difference, they confuse that word with deference. When they defer to power, defer to wealth, and defer to one man, we get what we have right now. That's the reason I'm running. So we're going to talk a lot more a little bit later.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Kirschner. Grew up here in Sarasota, 3rd generation Floridian. Really appreciate this opportunity to speak with all of you. I went to high school actually and middle school with Joe Gruters. Your clock didn't start, so I'll take off 5 seconds and do the honorable thing. Went to college, Georgetown University, got a full scholarship working for their basketball team. Like Mr. Pope, had the good sense with a full scholarship to continue to get my master's, got a master's in Latin American Studies. Felt that I really didn't have sufficient grasp of Latin America without a deep immersion in Latin America, and became a Peace Corps volunteer in rural Guatemala. After that, worked for USAID for a period of time, and then ultimately came back home, where, similar to Mark, got to be pissed off with our local government, ran against an incumbent who had the support of Republican Party Chair Joe Gruters at that point in time, and we beat that individual with 75% of the vote. I believe I'm the only candidate here who has ever held elected office and has the experience of actually holding people accountable, bringing greater transparency to government, and actually passing the most comprehensive campaign finance reform in the state of Florida at that time. Look forward to this evening's conversation. Thank you.
Stay up, Kelly. You get the first question.
Nice.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
Yeah, so the first thing is end the illegal tariff war. The illegal tariff war has added about $2,000 a year to families' pocketbooks. The other is end the excursion, is what we're being told we're having in Iran. That's really a war of choice. That alone has doubled the cost of gas year to year to where we are now, with the potential with additional bombing to go up further. If you listen to the vice president of Exxon last week, says that might go to $160 a barrel in the next few weeks, which will be $5.50 a gallon gas. The final thing relates to healthcare. Is this a 2-minute answer? Okay, solid. The final one would be on healthcare, and not many people appreciate it. We're the 3rd largest state in the union, but we are the largest state utilizing the ACA marketplace, or otherwise known as Obamacare. The termination of those subsidies basically led to an increase for individuals that are outside of child-rearing years of around $200 a month if you are of child-rearing years, or you're a smoker, God forbid, because these people are now paying over $1,000 a month. And so that needs to be addressed immediately. I think we've heard from our colleagues in Congress, particularly those that are in control of Congress right now. They've been telling us for about 10 years there is an alternative to Obamacare that's coming, and we're still waiting about a decade later. The final thing I'll say that's really close to home is the catastrophic insurance for what happens in hurricanes. And all of us that own homes, or even if you rent, because that's been passed on to you, are facing the costs of home insurance. And so if you look at increased probability of storms throughout this country, today, by the way, we had an earthquake. I'm not sure if you felt it or not. All of these types of things that we're feeling, we need a national reinsurance fund for catastrophes across this entire country that actually will make insurance affordable for homeowners all around the nation. Thank you.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
Right off the bat, we need to make sure that Congress is holding this president to account. That's the job of Congress to do that. The war in Iran was never authorized. There has now been the resolution, the War Powers Act resolution. However, once Democrats are in control of Congress, we can actually put some teeth into it to hold this president to account. Right now, the country has spent about 20, depending on what it is that you're looking at, 29 billion or as much as $70 billion on this war in Iran right now. However, the overall effects to the American people has actually come out to about 100 billion. This is the overall effect that we're getting. So prices are high. We've got the gasoline prices that are high. We've got, because of the fuel prices being up there, we've got groceries that are high. We can't even get helium to our MRI machines because the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. So we need to attack that right away. Also, when it comes to electricity, our electricity bills are so high right now. Congresswoman Kathy Castor just made a proposal to help modernize the electricity grid. That would actually help to save money to bring our costs down, because we're wasting a lot of money in just the transmission of electricity. I would caucus with other like-minded individuals within Congress to make sure that we are attacking these things and to make sure that we are working on your behalf in order to lower prices. Oh, one other thing I did want to say, I've got another 20 seconds, so I might as well bring this up. When it comes to accountability, what I did for more than 20 years, I was a news anchor and news reporter, and my job was to ask the tough questions, tell the truth, and hold the powerful accountable. And when you think about it, that's exactly what a congressman is supposed to do.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
Well, there are long-term and short-term measures to deal with affordability. And I am not for affordability. In this rich country, we need long-term economic security. That starts with quality public education. Put back the Department of Education, fair taxes, repeal the tax breaks for the rich and wealthy corporations that were in the big, bad, beautiful bill. It has to do with being able to afford health insurance. I'm a Medicare for all person, but we keep VA health insurance and improve it. Now, at the time, I was sharing an office with one of the founders of Wounded Warriors. He was a retired brigadier. I learned a whole lot about VA healthcare then and VA healthcare now. There are other measures, of course, get rid of the tariffs. But you have to strengthen social safety nets too. Have retraining for people who lose their jobs due to AI or anything else. That's part of the long-term view. Now, of course, the most immediate thing most people will agree on, the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 an hour since 2009. That's just plain dead-out ridiculous. We need living wages. We need help not only with health care, but child care, since the norm is 2 working families. So I have a bunch of shorter-term measures, including get out of Iran, and longer-term measures to make economic security rather than just affordability, which is a transient being able to pay your bills now. Thank you.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jan said about, bringing up wages, because wages are ridiculous right now. And I don't want to repeat everybody's answer. I'm against tariffs, all that stuff is nonsense. But the wages, right? Does anybody know what the starting wage for a new teacher in Manatee County is? For a brand new teacher, does anybody know? If I told you, would you believe me if I said it was $30,000? Is the starting wage for a brand new teacher in this district? I don't understand how they could afford anything. Even if you did remove the tariffs and you did, lower some prices, how are they going to afford anything at $30,000? In my opinion, $100,000 is a bad salary, right? A family of four on $100,000, you're getting some sort of government assistance out there, whether if it's through healthcare or something. You are reaching into the gut for $100,000 salary. I'm proposing that I'm not going to even accept the full $174,000 that all these Congress people make a year. I'm only going to accept what the average salary of a teacher in Manatee County makes. And I'm not going to raise my salary until they start raising their salary. Do you know what the average teacher in Manatee County makes right now? $49,000. $49,000. That's hardly anything in Florida. My mortgage is, $4,000 a month, and it's not a huge house, it's just a normal house. So we have to start bringing up people's wages. In my opinion, $250,000 a year is the new $100,000 a year. You cannot be proud of a $100,000 salary anymore. That is bull crap pay, in my opinion. We need to bring up everybody's pay, and we need to start getting more and more into the rich pockets. You can call me Robin Hood. Steal from the rich, give to the poor.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
I am not about reinventing the wheel. Yes, I agree with some of the other candidates here that we do need to end these tariffs. And yes, absolutely come away from Iran. I 100% agree with that. But we also have bills already in the House that simply need to be co-sponsored. These bills need to be moved forward. Things like the Medicare for All Act that's already in Congress. I would co-sponsor that day one because I believe healthcare is a human right. People are going into debt right now and choosing between paying a bill and going to see a doctor, and that is unfortunate. As a veteran, I understand that my brothers and sisters in uniform are waiting months before they can see a doctor. That's unacceptable. We volunteer to fight for America, but then when we return home, we have to fight America to survive. Unacceptable. So thank you for your service will become a bill when I'm there and not just a slogan. I would also co-sponsor Raise the Wage Act, Social Security Expansion Act, and the Right to Organize Act of 2023. These things are going to help to regulate our finances for people to actually be able to have a living wage. We need that. Also, I am all for the Paycheck Fairness Act, the Equality Act, and also our John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. These things protect us and ensure that we have the right people that are representing us in the House and ensuring that they're passing the right bills so that we actually feel the change there, because right now we have so many people going through something and no one is speaking on behalf of the community. Thank you.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
I ran for Congress because I felt that our politicians in Washington have forgotten about accountability, transparency, and most importantly, they forgot that they work for you. Apparently, my other two candidates forgot that as well, because they're not here. The war in Iran right now is costing this country billions of dollars. What kind of impact is it happening? I'd like to address that to our veterans, since the majority of people out here are veterans. Well, the current problems right now, and I'm a veteran, I'm also a disabled vet, the VA has cut thousands and thousands of positions within the medical field. So what does that mean? I'll tell you exactly what it means. It's someone like me that has a disability that has to wait 6 months in order to get an appointment to see a doctor. And if I can't get that appointment, you know what they do? They contract out me to go see a civilian doctor. And guess what? They had to wait another 6 months. Okay? These are the men and women who serve their country. So how are we going to prepare for the men and women that are currently fighting in Iran when we still don't have things in place to take care of the men and women that have already done their time? I would like to talk more about mental illness, homelessness, supporting our veterans in transition, addressing supports for families and caregivers. I have a Florida First agenda, and I talk a lot about what my plans and policies are for the veterans. I also have a 30, 60, 90-day plan, which I've already started drawing up legislation for that. One in particular is a tax exemption for small businesses, that if they'll be eligible for that tax exemption as long as they hire a veteran. Thank you.
What will you do to lower the cost of living in Florida? How can affordability be improved for working families, veterans, and retirees?
And for me, and the tariffs and the war in Iran, and make sure that we hold this government accountable. Absolutely all things that I would be in favor of. Supporting our unions here in Florida to make sure that we have the ability to negotiate fair wages for labor. Making sure that we raise the federal minimum wage is something that I would also be in favor of. However, I have also published a growth economy plan, and that looks at taking all walks of life and all generations' struggles. Because as you've noticed, I'm probably the youngest person on the stage. I'm also the only one that's raising children under 10. Right. So for me, when I had my first daughter, we actually had to go on food assistance, even though I was on active duty orders. When we have them both in daycare, I have to pay $2,200 a month just so they can, go to daycare, just so I can go to work, me and my wife. Right. So some of the things that we can do is, potentially expanding the child tax credit from $2,200 a child to $3,000 a child, and then giving people the option to have that paid out monthly. Because for me, that would equate to about $500 a month in additional income that could offset my cost, which is something that helps me. Other things we can look at is the national reinsurance backstop. Creating a way to not see the fluctuations in our insurance markets. Because if you own a home here in Florida, you know that insurance prices keep doubling or tripling in some cases. So establishing that backstop. And then there's a number of other things that we can do, but primarily it does focus on getting folks elected who are willing to work in a bipartisan fashion to accomplish the mission. And you guys are the mission. And that's what I take personally. Thank you.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
Okay, well, first of all, I would say that we need to abolish ICE. ICE needs to be removed from our neighborhoods now. We have allowed people who don't mean law enforcement any good to invade our government, and now they have destroyed what the sole purpose of ICE was supposed to be. So we do need to have absolutely enforcement of border control. I'm all for that, but it needs to be with dignity. It needs to be with the respect of our Constitution. We need to respect the rights of people, and they absolutely have rights. So these detention centers and things that we're doing now need to stop. We need to go back, and we need to make sure that we're making a pathway to citizenship actually affordable. These individuals are coming here to this country seeking asylum, and this is what our country was built on. This is what our Constitution has stood for. So we need to make sure that we're embracing these individuals and actually helping them and showing them a sensible, respectful, and legal path to citizenship.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
Yeah, so I think I'll just take this opportunity. Last year, it was July, and it was Bradenton, and Ron DeSantis was speaking, and I walked into this live press conference, and he was talking about like Hulk Hogan's birthday or something ridiculous, and or no, Hulk Hogan had just passed away, and I interrupted him, and I said, "Hey, Ron, Alligator Alcatraz, is that your legacy? Are you bow down to a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? You know, so these are serious issues in Florida. These are in our backyard." So I told Ron DeSantis about a year ago that I wasn't happy, right? And now look at them. They're tearing it down. They're wasting all of our money. All of our money. We spent $500 million on that facility, and they are tearing it down as we speak. That is a waste of money. This entire ICE development costs billions of dollars. We're pouring billions of our dollars into this ICE, and we don't even know if these people are trained. They're obviously not trained. They're killing Americans on the street. We got to abolish ICE immediately. Do we even need ICE? We have to ask ourselves, do we even need ICE? Get them the hell out of here first, and we can figure it out later, number one. But number two, what the energy that the Trump administration put into removing people, they could have put that same energy into making them legal. They had all the Republican support. He could do whatever he wants. Instead, he decided to rip these people out of their homes, send them back to wherever, and they have to reapply for citizenship. These people trucked hundreds of miles to get here, and they're poor and they're starving. That's not what we do. So we have to get our humanity back, our empathy back. And I'm telling you guys, it doesn't live in the Republican Party. Please stop voting for Republicans. I'm begging you. Even if you don't vote for me, guys, don't vote for freaking Republicans this round. They need a break. They need to sit out this round and let the adults take charge.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
First thing we have to do is keep our promises to, for example, the Afghanis who helped us there that we're breaking promises with, the DACA recipients, the people that were here legally, they go to courts and they get arrested when they're complying with the law. We also need, those are some short-term measures. We need to hold ICE accountable. I think we should get rid of ICE, but we still need to function, but not in our cities, on our borders. We need clearer standards for asylum, better asylum judges. We also need to have, when ICE or anyone goes into a home, they need a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant. You can't bust into people's homes and do things like that. And it's not just an immigration problem, though. We also have a smuggling problem, fentanyl and other drugs. You don't kill small boats on the high seas. We're murdering people. The United States is us. We're not just murdering people in Iran. We're illegally murdering people on the high seas in the name of border security. We have to hold people accountable for that. We do need some better tailored temporary visas, because we do need, especially in this state, agricultural workers. But let's make the standards clear. And I say agricultural workers because this new district includes agricultural counties. I know very little about agriculture, but I do know that. We have to tailor the system to be fair, humane, and just. Thank you.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
When you think of the contributions immigrants make to the United States, they fill jobs, they pay taxes, they contribute to our economy. The way this mass deportation has been going on, it's hurting people. It's hurting developers because they can't find the workers to build the houses. I don't know if any of you still have damage from previous hurricanes, but a lot of workers are not there in order to fill that. I've got some screens that are still damaged right now, and I still can't get anybody over to fix them because the immigrants who are working have been afraid and they've been scared off. Immigrants help our Social Security system as well. They're paying payroll taxes. We need to go about this in an intelligent way, in a smart way. What's been happening now is just disgraceful. We have to get ICE out of our neighborhoods, off our streets, and shut down those blasted detention centers. Absolutely. My son is married to a Brazilian woman. They've been married 7 years. She's a green card holder. For months, she was afraid to leave her house. She wouldn't go. She wouldn't go out at all. Self-imposed house arrest. Finally, about a month ago, she said, "Dad, you know what? It's just too much. I can't take it anymore. I don't feel safe." She went back to Brazil. That's what is happening here in this country. That's not the United States I know. That's not the United States I'd want to defend. Not at all. We need humane policies. Shutting down the border, making sure that we restrict access to this country by people who should not be here, or they haven't done it the right way. I understand that. But this mass deportation in these detention centers, we have to do something about it. And that's where congressional oversight comes in.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
So before I go into this, just one data point correction. Charlie Kennedy's a Manatee County School Board member who's endorsed our campaign. The entry-level salary for Manatee County teachers is $58,000, thanks to the $1 million that Manatee County voters approved for that. The other data point, $500 million, it's actually $1 billion for Alligator Alcatraz. If you look at the cost that we have now allocated to ICE, the Alligator Alcatraz, $1 billion, including $200 million for the porta potty company that's connected with our governor. If you look at what we're doing with ICE right now, $85 billion. And I think if there's a common thread with this, it's grift. It is grift at all levels. You can see it everywhere. And if you look at any Western democracy in this world and their ability to regulate immigration, they are not wasting $85 billion in cheap populism to somehow tell people these people are raping our children, they're eating our dogs and cats. It's ridiculous. And so the first thing that we could do for the next Trump golf course or whatever is say that the developer that builds that golf course or that condo that uses undocumented labor will be exposed to a felony conviction. And by the way, you're not exonerated by that if you hire a subcontractor and throw your hands up in the air. But to do that, the dirty little secret is in a place like Florida, where the fact of the matter is we have a three-legged stool of construction, building homes in swamps for Yankees. We have agriculture that's historically been dependent on immigrant labor, and then we have a service industry for tourists that is highly dependent on immigrant labor too. And so the dirty little secret that we never talk about is our dependency on that and how we have to address it. So the first thing is stop the $85 billion to ICE and come out with comprehensive immigration reform. Thank you very much.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
So obviously, yes, we do have to honor our promises to the Dreamers, and that starts by making sure that they have a pathway to citizenship. But also for the folks who want to come into this country, yes, they absolutely need to have a clear, defined path, but not only a clear, defined path, but the resources available so that it doesn't take 5-10 years of their time just to become a citizen of this country, because what they're coming here for is opportunity. And we know that opportunity could pass in the blink of an instant. So if we sit here and allow them to just wait in the wings for 5 or 10 years, then they're not actually being, productive in this country. They're not paying taxes in this country, and they're not getting that opportunity. But more importantly, I think that a personal story to me is when I was in Iraq, I had an interpreter, and he was one of the best that I've ever seen. And he was a local national. And the success story of America was his ability to come here after we ended our time there. Sometime later, he, came to the country, he got a green card, he started working as an interpreter for the DOD, and then he married a woman out in California, and today he is a citizen of this country. So it doesn't matter if you come from the southern border, if you come from Iraq, if you come from Afghanistan, everybody has something to offer. And I have seen personally the success stories that is America. So yes, I will champion any bill that's put in front of me that supports a pathway to citizenship for those who seek that opportunity. Because again, I have seen it personally. Thank you.
Immigration. What is your position on border security, legal immigration pathways, workforce needs, enforcement, and asylum policy?
It's a shame that our politicians up in Washington, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, just can't sit down, break bread, and have a halfway decent, educated discussion about topics such as the border. I'm from law enforcement. Okay, I served in the military. I think I know a little bit about this. My education too, counterterrorism. I think I know a little bit about this. My great-grandparents, well, let's put it like this. I'm an Italian from New York. Okay, don't hold that against me. My great-grandparents came over to this country from Italy. They came over legally. Okay, back then when people came to this country, they came to contribute to society. They brought trades. Okay. But we don't live in that generation anymore. We live in a different world. We live in a world where there's people outside the United States of America that want to hurt us. They want to kill us. They want to destroy our economy. We just can't let people come in. Now, I've spoken to both sides, okay? I've spoken to people that have had some hardships in other countries, and just like some of the other candidates mentioned, they've waited 3, 4, 5 years, whether it be a lottery or just to come into the country legally, okay? And they've had no choice but to come over because what they were suffering from in the country they were coming from. But then there's an element out here that, whether you believe it or not, are creating cells within our country, and they are terrorist cells. And we've got to have men and women out there that's looking out for our public safety. Who are those men and women? Well, it's law enforcement. It's Border Patrol. It's ICE. Now, you may not agree with some of the things out there, but you got to remember something. A lot of the information you're fed, it's coming from social media. And social media is full of opinions. You got to get facts, dead facts, okay? It's about protecting the citizens of the United States. I'm out of time. Thank you.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
I own a Ford Mustang Mach-E, so I love electric vehicles, but I want to go back to what he was saying real quick about misinformation online. We haven't had more misinformation since Donald Trump has been in office. Everything that Donald Trump has said over the past 10 years been misinformation. And he has been online. He literally came up through Twitter. I mean, he is the definition of misinformation, okay? So, but yeah, getting back to the environment, I mean, yes, I think we do need a push for electric vehicles. I think that would be a huge help to reduce greenhouse gases. They talk about mining is environmental issues, and obviously there is some of that, but anytime that you can control energy and emissions in a single spot and have a controlled way to clean it and recycle it, it's better. It's better for the environment. It's been proven over and over. It's unfortunate, that we took away the $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicles. That kind of gave them a competitive edge over gas vehicles, and now you're seeing it. Electric vehicles are starting to go away. The Ford Lightning lightning went away quickly. I don't know if that was just because it was a bad thing. The Cybertruck went away because that thing is just a trash can on wheels, right? But just to the point that we're seeing less and less electric vehicles right now, and the world is moving towards electric vehicles. China is figuring it out. Germany is figuring it out. The UK, Finland, Sweden, it's all electric because they are smarter than the Republicans that are in charge in this country, okay? And I hate to say this, I hate to sound like a broken record, but please don't vote for Republicans this next election round, right? The governor, the senator, the congresspeople, do not vote for Republicans. And I was just on a radio channel the other day, and we talked about the average salary of a teacher. It's $49,000, and that's the salary that I will accept, and the only salary I will accept until we start paying people more.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
On the last question, I just want to add the bipartisan immigration law a few years ago did 75 to 80% of what we were suggesting. Trump killed it to keep immigration to being a political issue, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention that. On electric vehicles, we have to revive the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the best green energy act we've ever seen in this country. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, rejoin the Paris Convention, refund the various Environmental Protection Agency funds that help promote alternative energy. It's not just cars. We've taken away all the incentives for solar, all the incentives to put charging stations all over the place. I worked for the United Nations Environment Program for 8 years. I represented them at the Law of the Sea Conference. Back then, we called it global warming. You know what? The problems are the same. We need to attack them the same, and we need to cooperate with neighbors in the same way we were starting to do then, but we're not now. Our laws have gone totally anti-environment. Get rid of the EPA regulation so power plants can pollute. It's about your children and your grandchildren. I couldn't have them, but I want to work for them, and I intend to.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
If you think about everything that Jan was saying about the different programs that are being gutted by this administration, it's a shame, and it's because of ideology. Yes, we definitely need to be we need to be developing more electric vehicles. We're surrendering our lead to China. China is doing all of that. We are going to fall behind, and we're going back on fossil fuels so that the billionaires can line their pockets again. When you think about ideology being the reason that they're doing this, think about us. We have just entered the hurricane season as of June 1st. And right now, there are 900 ocean sensors in the Atlantic and in the Pacific that this administration is currently removing. These ocean sensors monitor the temperature of the ocean and the current, and it helps us predict how hurricanes are going to affect us. It helps predict when they're going to affect us. Last year, we had 2 Category 2 hurricanes. It turned into Category 5 hurricanes overnight. These sensors help save lives, but they're being ripped out because of ideology. Because the information that's been gathered, this administration is saying, well, it's woke. It's woke. That's ridiculous. We are being dumb on purpose. We are dumbing it down all because of ideology. So when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to the climate, we have to make sure that we take the lead, and having a functioning Congress with Democrats in charge, again, will put a check on this administration to make sure that we are giving the adequate attention to the environment.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
I'm going to do like Jan and just go back a step, because I think this moment in time, maybe it's the phrase for the 21st century is cognitive dissonance. So we literally have the nonpartisan CBO right now. You can go online in Congress. This is the office invested to do the research that really is for our members of Congress to make informed, wise decisions. The CBO says we need 2.5 million new immigrants per year for the solvency of Social Security and for Medicare. And but for that, then it goes backwards that much more. By the way, the Cato Institute, maybe a month and a half ago, Cato Institute, if you don't know, is the Koch brothers that we've been talking about for a while, and what they do for the conservative movement. But the Koch brothers say that our immigrant population that we talk about, and we have a lot of people in DC say that they want to deport millions of them. The Koch brothers say that it's a $500 billion net positive in taxes every year for this country. And so to Glenn's point on us just being stupid on purpose, it's left and right, and it's costing us. So this lie about fiscal conservatism is a lie as well. In terms of electric vehicles, like Mark, I own an EV, and thank God I do, because I've been commuting for 14 years to St. Petersburg, and my bill right now, if we think about the cost of gas, thank God that I'm not paying for that. By the way, though, this country's continued dependency on oil, while we are producing it, we are part of a global market, and that price shock all of us as Americans will face. And so the more that we can continue to push and create that green economy will be that much better for American citizens. As it relates to climate change, I would agree with what a lot of my colleagues have already talked about in terms of bringing back some of these things that incentivize that green economy, about not doing what Glenn's talking about and the stupidity of $400 million in ocean sensors that's allowing us to gather real data. We need a return to science and a lot less ideology from either party.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
So again, I agree. We do need to re-incentivize electric vehicles, but I think if we're just looking at battery-operated vehicles, I think that's being short-sighted. One of the things that I actually like looking into is alternative forms of automobiles. There's a lot of investments over in Japan right now in hydrogen energy cells. There's a lot of investments in other types of propellant for vehicles. So I think that just saying, hey, look, an electric vehicle, that's probably the wrong answer. We should broaden that scope and try and find ways that we can actually solve the crisis that is our reliance on fuels. But to that point, I think it goes a bit further, because climate change is real. I'm not going to sit here and try and say it's not. So that we need to actually look at finding ways to power our cities, power our local townships off of solar, off of investments in nuclear fusion reactors. They say that we're always like 30 years away from fusion, but I know that India and China are doing some really incredible research right now in terms of these technologies. And to say, hey, look, we're not going to place investments into these, I think that that's kind of giving them the edge in terms of who will have the first sustainable economy off of a nuclear fusion. So I would definitely put some federal dollars into that region. Outside of that, I think that when we look at solar, I think that all of the tax credits that we get or we used to get from putting solar onto our roofs, I think that should be expanded. Because there was a township here in Florida after one of the hurricanes where they were all fine. As all of us were struggling with power outages, they were all fine because they all had solar on the roofs. So making sure that we invest in all of these green technologies is something that I am very committed to and will pursue when I make it to Congress. Thank you.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
Well, I'm taking some notes here, listening to all the other candidates. I believe we can protect our environment without forcing government mandates on hardworking Americans. Florida's natural resources, our beaches, our waterways, our fisheries, and wildlife are part of what makes this state very special. Protecting them isn't a partisan issue. It is the responsibility, though, of all of us. When it comes to electric vehicles, I believe it's consumer choice. If an individual wants to buy an electric vehicle and it works for their family, then that should be their decision. If someone prefers a gas-powered vehicle, hybrid or diesel truck, that should be their choice as well. I do not support government mandates that force Americans into one type of vehicle. It's innovation, not regulation, is what has historically improved our environment. American companies continue to develop cleaner engines, better fuel, efficiency, advanced battery technology, and new solutions. But we should encourage innovation and competition instead of having Washington dictate winners and losers. As a congressman, I will support all of the above energy strategies that include oil, natural gas, nuclear power, renewable energy, which is critical to lowering costs of families and businesses. For Florida specifically, I will fight to protect our water quality, support Everglades restoration efforts, preserve our coastlines, and ensure the future generations can enjoy the natural beauty that makes our state so unique. The choice isn't between a strong economy and a clean environment. We can have both by promoting innovation, responsibility, and conservation, and common sense policies that put our families first. Thank you.
What will you do to encourage electric vehicles to reduce atmospheric discharge of nitrogen, which pollutes our waters, etc.? And kind of along with that, what is your position on climate change?
Well, on this one, I have to agree with Jan a bit more on this. I agree that those incentives that we have lost have put us in a terrible situation. I agree with we need to implement those incentives back, but we have to trust our scientists. We have fired all of our intelligent individuals that give us this information that we should be relying on, because no one person knows everything about everything, right? I can recall being stationed in Europe for 2 years and I can remember the windmills and all of that over there, and the way that we lived over there was so different that when I came back to the United States, my children actually wanted to stay in Europe because of it. There has been a huge change since this administration has taken control, and we have lost a lot of what we should have. Yes, we need our solar and all of those incentives that come with those things, but it needs to also be affordable. A lot of people would love to have EV cars, but they're not affordable. So when we move toward these types of things, it is those incentives, it is our scientists, it is all of those that work together to ensure that that movement is actually one that's possible and one that is actually affordable for the citizens. Thank you.
All right, I think that pretty much takes all the time for the questions, but we still have a few minutes. So what I would like is for each of you in 30 seconds, stand up and give me your final argument why we should vote for you. John, go ahead. Hit it hard.
Yeah, so as I started, I've spent more than half my life in service to this country. And I will continue to do so if you send me to Washington. And it's not just a, rubber stamp on whatever is currently in the House of Representatives. It's a open mind to new ideas and also working in a true bipartisan fashion, because we know that if we get in and we say, oh, well, only Democrats can fix this, well, then when the pendulum swings the other way, they're just going to reverse whatever we did. So making sure that whatever solution I come up with is done in a bipartisan fashion is the way forward. And if you want somebody who's going to go to Washington to do that for you, I'm your man. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
30 seconds, all right. You know, as a law enforcement officer, and I help people, I never asked them if you were a Republican or a Democrat. I did it because I'm not a politician. I'm not a career politician. I've been a public servant for as long as I can remember. My entire career has been about helping people, regardless to whether you like Republicans, whether you like Democrats, okay? And that's one of the biggest problems we have in this country is this division that has to stop. Are there bad Republicans? Sure there are. Are there bad Democrats? Sure there are. Okay, but we've got to try to find some way where we can go ahead and have a conversation and try to work these things out. Look, social criminal behavior is one of my specialties. There's a lot of anger up here, okay? Am I done?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I believe I'm the only candidate up here with such a diverse background. So as a former healthcare worker, as someone with also a legal education, someone that is also an educator, someone that is a nonprofit owner, and someone that has readily sat across from families in crisis, I am not a career politician. I don't come for money. I don't have somebody's name to lean on to say that they, got me here. I worked hard to get here, and I will do the same thing in DC. Thank you.
Okay, I'm running as an NPA, no party affiliate, so I don't care about Democrats or Republicans. I'm neutral in this. Republicans suck. Do not vote for Republicans. Please, again, do not vote for Republicans this next round. They're up to no good. The president has proven what they are. I have over 250,000 followers on social media. We've built a movement. I got a podcast where we interview progressive candidates. Please check out MarkDavisForCongress.com.
I think I'm the only person up here who has drafted legislation, several pieces which Congress actually passed. I'm currently working on a campaign finance bill, with a Republican member of Congress who agrees. I have lobbied Congress. I have been a registered foreign agent for the government of Canada. About 70% of my career was giving the Canadian government advice on U.S. law.
30 seconds.
So I would be the best equipped on day one, and I get along with people. Hate to tell you, I even went to Sydney and Joe Gruder's
35
wedding.
seconds.
Anyway, thank you. I will work with
40.
everyone.
Truth, accountability, and people over powerful interests. Those are the core values of my campaign. It's resonated. I have a grassroots campaign. I'm the only Democratic candidate here who's qualified for the ballot by signatures, 2,564, and then another 200 on top of that. It's resonating. It's about people. It's about you. I want to fight for you. That's what I'm all about. Glenn Pearson for Congress.com.
Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your investment in democracy. As I said at the outset, the only elected official on this dais, or I was not on the dais, so good visuals there. I've spent the past 14 years driving this district with a network in both places. We must build a big tent for NPAs, Republicans, and Democrats for the fever to break and bring some type of rational dismissal, really, of reality TV politics and bring some level of seriousness back to deliberations in Congress. Really appreciate your support, and thanks again.
Thank you so much. Let's have a hand for this group, you guys. Really, thank you all. Class dismissed.